Okay, so maybe you notice that I turned the lights down and turned them back on. Did anybody notice that we're turning the lights on? That's a signal we're really doing our new left. We couldn't see that. Okay, guys, that's known as a signal. Okay, so we want to get back in our seats, and we're pretty close to being ready. I think the conversations are pretty well stopped. This is good. So let's see. Okay, Jere, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Jere, where are you? Jerry?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay. Well, we're ready for you.
All right. Let's see if we can make this thing work.
Okay. Maybe I have to turn the sound up a little bit. Well, just say something, Jere.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
We hear you.
Okay. What do you see on your screen now?
You see your PowerPoint slide, how to save dollars on printer ink.
Okay. Fantastic. Fred, Joe, Mike, do you see the same thing?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jere Minich. My mother spelled it Jere. I didn't change it. I live in Leesburg, Florida. I'm retired from the U.S. Navy and then 17 years working for the Department of the Navy as a civil servant. And I got introduced to computers in 1960 when they said to me, "You're in the Navy now, you're going to be a computer operator." And of course, in 1960, I said, "What's a computer?" So one of the things that I've learned is that after 20 years in the Navy is that there is a couple different ways to give a presentation. I like to use the Navy standard, which is talk about my presentation, not read the slides to you. Make most of my presentation in black and white, so if you want to print it out, you can do so and not waste a lot of ink, and tell you what I'm going to cover, and then at the end, hold a short review. I would appreciate it if you could hold your answers till the end of my presentation, and that way I can get all the information in. I have given Sandy Rand my presentation a couple days ago. It should be available to you through him, and anybody can use it for any reason that they so desire. The Lake Sumter Computer Society is located in Leesburg, Florida. We're about halfway between Ocala and Orlando, and we're associated with the Lake Sumter State College. They allow us to use their lecture hall. We hold meetings once a week. I'm the program director, have been for a couple of years, and so I dig up a program every week. Sometimes I give them, sometimes, most of the time other people are coming in to give presentations to our computer society. Let's get down to where we're supposed to be tonight. How do printers really work? How can I save money on ink? What is the most efficient modus operandi for the printer that I have? What are some trusted sites on the internet that I can get ink from? And, gee, does Jere have any recommendations? That's basically what I'm going to cover. And first off, we need to make sure everybody understands the same terminology. Printer terms that we need to understand apply to all printers that are using ink. I'm not talking about printers that use a toner, inkjet printers. Okay, each inkjet printer has a print head, and it contains the ink, and the ink is sprayed onto the paper or whatever you're printing onto, be it printer paper or regular paper. And the print head is in one of two places. It's either on the cartridge or the print head is in the printer. And I will explain what different manufacturers do with their print heads, because this is important. An ink cartridge, again, depending on the manufacturer, is either going to have a separate black and color cartridges, up to 6, or a color and black cartridge and color and black ink in a single cartridge, or a cartridge for ink, each ink color. I have 3 different printers, and all of them have 4 cartridges in them. So when we're talking about a print head, we're talking about 2 types, the fixed and the disposable. When you talk about a fixed print head, we're talking about the print head is in the printer. It's not on the cartridge. The only thing that's on the cartridge is a hole that allows the ink to go into the print head that's fixed somewhere below where the cartridge sits. Epson, Canon, and Hewlett-Packard, all 3 of those manufacturers make a fixed head printer. The disposable head printer is a cartridge that has electrical connections on the end of it and a print head on the bottom of it. And these are the ones that also work very well, but when you use up the cartridge, you have to replace it with a new one, or you have to refill it. And the manufacturers are pretty smart about all this. They only allow you to refill the cartridge X number of times, or the fact of the matter is they may not let you refill the cartridge at all. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. So we have fixed head and disposable head cartridges and printers. And again, in the technology, we get the thermal drop on demand, or we get the piezoelectric drop on demand. And these are 2 very similar processes on how you get ink from the cartridge onto the paper. The thermal printer is just a little bit more sensitive than the piezoelectric, and that's because if you have a thermal printer and it runs out of ink, you can destroy the cartridge by trying to print, and the metal plate heats up, and then it's not usable anymore. So if you have a thermal drop-on-demand printer, bottom line, don't run your cartridge out of ink. Refill it or replace it, and I'm going to show you how to refill it, okay, before it gets all the way out of ink, and you don't destroy the thermal plate in there, the thermal metal plate. The bubble jet printers have a tiny metal resistor in there, and the heat vaporizes the ink, and the bubble expands, and it pops. When it pops, it creates a vacuum which sucks more ink into the print head. And what you really need to see here at this picture is that we have the cartridge and the reservoir for all the ink is up here. This is the print head. Okay, so this drawing is showing you only the print head, and the heated resistor vaporizes the ink. It squirts out. When the bubble pops, it sucks more ink from up here in the reservoir down into the print head. Remember that. That's important to remember that concept in a few minutes. The piezoelectric printers made by Epson don't have that thermal, but they have a vibration. And the piezoelectric disc vibrates and it causes the ink to squirt out the tiny little nozzle. And when some ink is squirted out, the tiny little nozzle, other ink comes back in to fill the void in the print head. Again, we have all the reservoir over here where the extra ink is, and the piezoelectric disc vibrates, causing ink to go out this way, and more ink flows from left to right into fill up this reservoir in the print head. Now, let's look at the cartridges themselves, because again, we have some cartridges that have 3 colors in them, and some other cartridges that only have a single color in them. And most of the cartridges have a varying amount of a reservoir. Some cartridges only hold 7 milliliters of ink. Other cartridges can hold as much as 20 or 30 milliliters of ink. And we'll be taking a look at that in a second. Single color cartridges are built like this, and different printers use them. This part here is just a holder. This is the cartridge where the ink is. This is the electrical connection up here, the little green spot on the end. This connects to your printer so it knows that there's a cartridge in place. And this little thing here has quite a few jobs. Now, as you can see, there is no connection between this part of the printer cartridge and the reservoir. That's an important factor. Some inkjet cartridges, like this one for a Hewlett-Packard printer, look like this from the top, and they run anywhere from $15 to $39 per cartridge. And when you're talking about taking the top off of that, what you find inside of this cartridge, because of its size, you find a sponge. Now, why did they have a sponge inside the cartridge? Well, if they didn't have a sponge inside the cartridge, the ink would be sloshing around in there as the print head moves back and forth quickly inside the printer. And when it got low on ink, you might not print because the ink wasn't getting down into the print head from the cartridge. So they put a sponge in there. And of course, putting a sponge in there means that, gee, less ink goes inside the cartridge because the sponge material is in there. And this is really soft sponge material. I have cut the top off of more than one ink cartridge in my time. If you take a look at another Hewlett-Packard cartridge that has 3 colors in it, you get this kind of arrangement where, again, each cartridge is in fact got some sponge material in it. And if you have this type of cartridge in your printer and you decide that you're going to refill it yourself, and I'll get to that later, then you have to be careful that you don't overfill. Because if you overfill, ink can spill from this cartridge over to this one, or from this one over to this one, and now you got some yucky looking printouts. All right, so overfilling can bleed from one chamber to the other. Even some of the single cartridges, even with a smaller reservoir, still have some foam in there. Don't ask me why. I don't make cartridges. I just tear them open and see what they look like inside. So, are you feeling ripped off yet? You know, how many people have paid $25 to $35 for one single cartridge for their printer? I think we've all done that at one time or another. And that little print chip that I was talking about a couple minutes ago that's on the front of the cartridge, again, is not a float valve to tell you how much ink is in there. That chip actually is programmed by the manufacturer so that when you print so many pages, the chip says you're out of ink. And you may have anywhere from 10 to 35% of the ink still in there. And sometimes you can tell that just by shaking it, listening to the ink slosh around in there. Unless, of course, it has a sponge inside. Now, of course, the other thing I want to mention here is if you do have a sponge inside of your cartridge, you need to, and you want to refill them, and there's many that you can, okay, yourself, and you get a hypodermic needle. Make sure the needle's long enough to go all the way down to the bottom of the sponge, because if you shoot some ink into that cartridge, let me go back, and you only are shooting it into the top, it can take 2 or 3 days for that ink to flow down to the bottom of the cartridge. So a cartridge refill kit should have a long needle on it so you can get down to the bottom of the cartridge, and that's where you start putting ink in. Many cartridges, especially the ones that come with the printer, only contain 7 milliliters of ink or less. Why? Well, they sell printers for reasonable prices. They sell ink to make the money. And you say, well, what's 7 milliliters of ink? Let me show you what 7 milliliters of ink looks like on a 7-inch paper plate. That's 7 milliliters of black ink. Whoa. All right? Not very much ink at all. And yes, there have been many reports, including an excellent report from consumerreports.org about printer ink and how you're getting ripped off. There's a little movie on YouTube that I was watching the other day, so that if you fill up your tank with gasoline, it can cost you $70 to $100. If you fill that same tank up with ink, it could cost you $2,300. So there's a stupid comparison. So how do you save money on printing, and how do you save money on buying ink? Well, there's a couple things you can do right off. Print in draft mode or grayscale. Some printers call it grayscale. Go into your printer setup, and unless you're printing something for reproduction, like in a Xerox machine, printing in draft mode probably is good enough. Use print preview. I always use print preview. Before I print something, I want to look at it and see what it's going to look like when I print it out. And that saves you from wasting paper and ink, okay? Most printers are set up so that you use the maximum amount of ink every time you print. Go into your printer setup and choose something different. That's one way to save money, okay? There is at least 2 universities that I'm aware of that did a analysis of what fonts save the most ink. This whole presentation that you're looking at is done in Century Gothic. And Century Gothic delivers a 31% savings over most of the other print fonts that are available. And so you can save some money that way. I have gone into my Microsoft Word and my PowerPoint setups and changed my font to Century Gothic, so I always use it. I have not done an analysis to see if I save $20 a year. All right, PC World Magazine did a significant research into third-party ink, and their bottom line was, hey, there are ways for you to refill cartridges or buy cartridges that you can refill, and you can do that and save yourself up to 70% on the cost of ink. I'm going to give you a minute to look this over. And give me a minute to take a drink of water. So, the bottom line again, how do you save money on ink? You find some compatible cartridges, okay, that you can use in your printer. And with most of them, they're not OEM, original equipment manufacturer, okay? They're not OEM, but if they work, they're well worth it. Now, if you're going to purchase some compatible cartridges from somebody, you have to go through some very easy steps to make sure that you don't get ripped off. Okay? Cartridges that have ink in them come in a sealed package. Don't break the seal until you're ready to use the cartridge. All right? And don't try to use a cartridge that's been sitting around for weeks or months, because it may not work at all. And again, you have to go back to the thing that says, is my print head in the printer or is my print head in the cartridge? Okay. Biggest savings you can make on your printer, and people have problems accepting this, but it's very, very true. Leave your printer on. Now remember, I was talking specifically when I showed you these little drawings right back here. And these drawings, this one and this one, I was talking about the reservoir versus the print head. Okay. When you turn your printer off, your printer will not immediately turn off. It will go into a clean the print head routine. So it dumps ink from your print heads into an absorbent pad in the bottom of your printer. So every time you turn your printer off, you're dumping ink into the bottom of your printer. Is that a savings? I don't think so. Every printer works that way. Why? Because if you turn the printer off, the ink will dry up if it's sitting in the print head. And then when you go to print again, it's not going to work because the ink has dried up. So if you turn the printer off, I got to clean the print head. I got to stop ink from going from the reservoir into the print head. And then when you turn it on again, I'll reload the print head, and there we go. There's no moving parts in your printer. If you leave it on, there's not a fan in there going around and around. There's nothing but a little green light somewhere, usually, that says my printer's on. Some printers nowadays, especially the newer ones, will go into a sleep mode when they haven't been used for a while. That's fine. Okay, the sleep mode occasionally sends a little bit of electrical charge to the print heads to keep the ink liquid so it doesn't dry up. Okay? And of course, sometimes when you do cleaning of your printer because you get some skipped lines or spaces or something like that, then a lot of ink is run through the print head to clean the print head. How else can you clean a print head unless you run ink through it? These are the felt pads from one HP printer. And if you have an old printer laying out in the garage, you want to take it apart, you'll find that in the bottom of that printer, there's either some felt pads or some sponges to catch the ink that is dumped from the print head every time you turn the printer off. My rule of thumb is if Joyce and I are leaving the house for more than 3 days, I will turn my printer off. Other than that, I leave it on. And I have had the same printer and I print a lot of stuff. And I've been using the same printer for 7 years. All right? If you're going to turn your printer off, don't just unplug it. I know sometimes, especially in Central Florida where I live, we have a lot of lightning storms and you want to go and turn the printer off or unplug it so that the lightning doesn't hit it. Well, again, if you turn the printer off by just unplugging it, not going through the turn off procedure, then it doesn't dump the ink out of the print heads. And if it's off for any period of time, the print head ink is going to dry up. And then you can't use your printer at all. So anytime you turn the printer off, please turn it off using the printer routine, which dumps the ink out of the print head and then parks it. Yes, they call it a spittoon. That area in the bottom of your printer where the extra ink is dumped is called a spittoon. If you call up your printer manufacturer and say, I've got a spittoon that's overloaded and it's leaking out of the bottom of my printer, what should I do? He will know what you're talking about. Okay? I did a real bad thing one day. This 93-year-old gentleman asked me to come over and help him with his printer, and it was a Hewlett Packard. And of course, he was turning it off every time after he used it. And so I picked it up, and I noticed that there was a black spot on the desktop where his printer was sitting. So I turned around and set the printer on the floor, on his carpet. His wife had a fit. But she got it out. She got it cleaned out. So I didn't feel too bad after that. All right? The dried ink in the spittoon can also screw up your print heads, jamming the printer. This is what a spittoon looks like on one Hewlett Packard printer. This area right here is a spring-loaded rubber wiper that wipes the print head clean, and this is the spittoon right here where the ink goes down into it. So, item number one, if you want to spend less money on your printer ink, find yourself somebody that will supply you with a refill cartridge, a refurbished cartridge, okay, for your printer. You can get on the internet, you can check out different sites, you can go to the local storefront, and you can check out what he's going to do for you. It's your responsibility to do this. The manufacturer's not going to help you. And oh, by the way, if you have a printer that's still under warranty and you call the manufacturer or chat with the manufacturer or email the manufacturer, don't tell them you're using other ink cartridges than OEM, because if you do, he's going to say, I don't care. I'm not helping you because you're not using original equipment manufactured cartridges. Right? Google your printer. I have an Epson Workforce 500. That's the printer I use most of the time. And I Google it using things like Epson Workforce 500 refurbished cartridges, Epson Workforce 500 cheap ink, and you get all sorts of results off the internet, and that's where you need to go. When you find somebody who is going to give you some kind of break on the price, then you need to know what is their what if policy. And what do I mean? Well, what if I take this cartridge from Walmart after you've refilled it and only charge me $6 and I stick it in my printer and it doesn't work? What are you going to do for me, Walmart, CVS Pharmacy, whoever, whatever, whenever? And if their answer is, sorry, we got no, that's not the place to go. The same thing on the internet. If you find a supplier that's on the internet, you need to know if he's got a phone number, if he's got an email address, what his mailing address is, and what is his what if policy. So that the first time you make an order from somebody who says they can help you with the cost of ink, I wouldn't make a big order. I would make a small order, and then I would try it out, and if it works, then I would continue to use that supplier. Again, when you buy a printer and it comes in the box, you get a low capacity starter cartridge. High capacity cartridges are a good deal. They can help out. So if your printer will take an XL or high capacity cartridge, go for it. But again, most all printer cartridges can be refilled or replaced with a refillable cartridge. Canon, Dell, HP, Lexmark, again, they have that little chip on the front, and the chip says, I can't be reset. Sometimes when you go to an ink supplier, he'll sell you a refurbished cartridge, and he also wants you to buy a chip resetter. So you pull the cartridge out, you put it in a chip resetter, you reset that chip so that it says, I'm full again, and then you stick it back in to the printer once you put some ink in there. On Epson, my Epson Workforce 500s don't have to be reset. I can pull the cartridge out, I can put ink in it, I can put them back in, I'm ready to go. Okay? Brother cartridges, same thing. If they lack a chip, it's a good place to go. So that chip that the OEM, original equipment manufacturer, puts on his cartridge is the one that says, I'm a good cartridge, I've been refilled, I'm full, I'm empty. Okay? And sometimes you can use the chip, sometimes printer manufacturers are getting smart now. All right, they're setting up their chip so that when it says you're empty, it self-destructs. But there are ink suppliers around the world that have figured out how to get around most of those little things that the OEM does, so that you pay more for ink. You got to remember that the law says they cannot require you to use branded parts in order to retain the warranty. They'll tell you that over the phone, but they can't do that. Okay, it's against the law. I refill cartridges on my printers. I have 3 different printers, and there's a lot of people that will sell you cartridges that you can refill yourself. All right. Some inks are universal, some printers require a certain kind of ink. Before you go out and buy a new printer, I would check on the internet and see what other people are saying about the printer you're thinking about buying when it comes to refilling the cartridges, etc. I've had very good luck with Epson printers. The exact ink composition depends on what kind of cartridge you have, and I like printers that have the print head in the printer, not on the cartridge. I'm going to show you some pictures in a minute of some cartridges that I use on my Workforce 500 and my Epson 310, which is a Photoshop printer. If you refill some cartridges, they can only be refilled a certain number of times, and then the print head deteriorates. So you can go to this website and they'll explain that to you. Wikipedia will explain it to you in excruciating detail. Your ink cartridge will eventually wear out if, in fact, you have an ink cartridge that has a print head on it. And when you start seeing streaks and areas where it fails to print, it's time to get another cartridge. Again, I'm talking specifically about cartridges that have the print head on the cartridge. So don't expect that if you have a print head on your cartridge, it's going to last forever. Single ink color cartridges are getting more popular all the time. I've seen a lot of them with 4, some of them with 5, and others with 6 different cartridges. And of course, the cartridge doesn't hold as much as a 2 cartridge printer, but obviously it's cheaper when you only have to replace 1 cartridge for 1 ink color. Most multiple cartridge printers will run you between $6 and $12 per cartridge. And that's not a bad price. It's better than $25 to $35 a cartridge. Now, of course, if you have a multiple color cartridge and you run out of 1 color in the cartridge, then you got to replace the cartridge, or you have to refill it. All right? And so, again, be careful about what you're getting into when you buy a printer with a multiple color cartridge. The easiest to refill are the ones that have a print head in the printer and the ink goes into the cartridge, which is nothing more than a reservoir. And I have been using the same cartridges on my Workforce 500 Epson printer for the last 5 years, and I repeatedly refilled the individual cartridges when the printer tells me it's running low. But there's another trick to that too. Again, some printer ink information sites. I've recently gone to all 3 of these sites. They still contain good information. They're all workable sites. And here's the 2 people I use on the internet for my ink. All right. ccsdigital.com is run by a guy by the name of Izzy. He's in Rockaway, New York, not too far from you guys. He has an email, a phone number, a mailing address, and if you order ink from Izzy, if you order 1 cartridge from him, he charges you $7 shipping. If you order 10 cartridges from him, he charges you $7 shipping. and his cartridges are very reasonable. Depending on what kind of printer you have. Now, CCS-Digital does not carry cartridges for every printer that's made. There are certain printers that Izzy won't even deal with. www.inkquick.com is another good place that I've been on the internet, and they have excellent what-if policy and all other information, and they carry almost every ink for every printer that you can think of. So if Izzy doesn't have what I want, then I go down to inkquick.com. Those are my two trusted resources. I've been using both of them for over 5 years and never had a problem. Okay? This is what Izzy's website looks like. And of course, when you open up his website, you go to your printer and then you choose either by the printer model or the cartridge number, like 97, 98, or whatever it happens to be. And then you can order the ink from him, the cartridges rather. I have a PayPal account, so Izzy takes PayPal, and that works good for me. This is what InkQuick website looks like. Again, as you can see, they have a wide variety of machines that they cover, compared to Izzy, who covers Epson, Hewlett-Packard Brother, Canon, and that's about it. And he does some toners. Izzy does some other things on his website too, but I mostly deal with him only on ink. And again, he's got all the different, he's very, very likable guy. I spend a lot of time talking to Izzy on the internet, emails back and forth. And he does a quick turnaround. You order some ink from him, you're going to get it. All right. The refillable Epson cartridges that I get from Izzy look like this. Yes, opaque. You know, they're not clear plastic, but you can, in fact, hold them up to the light and see how much ink is in there. And that's why I like his cartridges. Down here at the bottom is where the plunger goes in, and the ink, the print head is below this in the printer. So this is nothing but a reservoir, okay? When Izzy sends me this cartridge, I can pull this little plug right here. It's a little rubber plug. I pull it out. I turn the bottle upside down, fill it with ink. I hold it up to the light as I'm doing it. I can see how much ink I put in there. I don't fill it up completely. Then I put this little plug back in and stick it back in my printer. And my contact board is right up here in front. And this is what makes electrical contact to my printer to say that I have a black cartridge in there, or whatever color I'm using. You can have a continuous ink system like this setup. All right, and there are printers that are available for this kind of setup. If you do a lot of printing, this is one way to go. I have a couple friends in the Lake Sumter Computer Society that have this kind of setup, and they're very happy with it, okay? And again, your chips are right up front here on the front of the cartridges, but this whole device sits out on the tabletop next to your printer. And that way you can monitor how much ink is available for a continuous flow. I'll show you a picture of that next. Here's an Epson Artisan 835 printer with the reservoirs outside, and this guy can do a lot of printing before he runs out of ink. And of course you can see here he's got 6 colors. All right. Bottom line. Find out what kind of printer you have. Do I have a printer that has cartridges with the print head, or the print heads in the printer itself? Okay. Google that make and model for information. Educate yourself on what kind of printing you have, what's available. Listen to what people have to say on the internet about your printer, and what it can do for you. Sometimes I take a printer that somebody has. I live in a community of 650 homes, so I help my neighbors quite a lot, okay? Somebody will call me up and say, Jerry, will you come over and work on my printer? I'm having problems with it. So I'll go over and I'll see what printer they have, and I'll go to Amazon.com and read the comments about that printer that people have written about it. And that gives me a heads up on what I'm looking at and what I'm dealing with, okay? If you are going to order ink from anybody, find out what their what-if policy is. Shop around. There are ways for you to cut your printer ink costs significantly by finding the right person to send you the right hardware and ink. I called up Izzy a couple weeks ago and I said, Izzy, this is from ccsdigital.com. Okay, what is your suggestion? And this is what he came up with. And he says the best printers today, and you need to do this. If you're going to find a supplier of your own, you're not going to use Izzy or somebody else, you need to do the same thing. You need to say to these guys who work with this day after day, what's your recommendation? What do you think? The Epson Workforce 35 series printer, they run about 140 bucks. They don't gobble ink. They use multiple different color cartridges and double-sized black. They're really great. If you're into toners, then the brother printers are good. Izzy sells some toners. I prefer an inkjet printer to a toner printer myself. If you are into photography or you need to have an excellent printer that in fact will give you high definition and print up to a size of 13 by 19, then you need to go to the Epson Artisan 1430. Printers nowadays are very popular to be wireless. Yes, I have a printer in my house that I can print from my iPhone or my iPad or my tablet or my laptops. Yeah, I have all of those things. But I have another life too. I don't let these digital devices consume me 24 hours a day. And that's it. I have gotten a lot of feedback from people over the years that once they got into what they were really doing with their printer, they in fact were able to save a lot of money. And I challenge you to work it out for yourself. If you have any questions or if there's anything else I can help you with, please feel free to email me at programlscs@gmail.com. I am the program director for the Lake Sumter Computer Society. And sending me an email saying, I'm having trouble with my printer, can you help? Doesn't tell me a whole lot. You got to tell me what kind of printer it is, what kind of ink cartridges you have, something like that. And if I can't help you, I can certainly put you on to people who can.
Just think.
Questions?
Oh, no. Okay. Yes.
Hey, Jared, can you hear us?
Yeah, go ahead.
At what point do you go ahead and refill cartridges versus just swapping out third-party cartridges? Where's the break even on the aggravation factor?
Sandy, repeat that for me, will you please?
Okay. He's saying, I think he's asking, at At what point would you decide to refill cartridges versus buying refilled cartridges? Would be a comparison between refilling them yourself and buying refilled cartridges.
Okay, that's a good question. I would just do a cost analysis, okay? Like I say, there's so many different ways to go nowadays. You can have CVS pharmacy, Walmart, Staples. These people are refilling cartridges, and sometimes they're charging very little. When I refill my own cartridges, one, I make sure I have old clothes on. Joyce has scalped me a couple times because I ruined a good shirt. Number two, I put newspapers down where I'm setting my cartridges, okay? Number three, I take my bottles of ink and I make, and then when I get all through, I don't put plastic gloves on or anything because my hands sweat when I do that. But when I get all through and there's ink all over my fingers, then I immediately go out and put some Clorox in my hands and rub them around like this, and then wash them off good with soap and water, and the ink stains are gone. If you wait 30 minutes, that may not happen, but as soon as I get through refilling cartridges, sticking them back in a printer, off I go to wash my hands. Now, I don't mind doing that. Some people don't want to mess with the ink, okay? And that's cool. That's cool. Go and find somebody that will refill them for you and not charge you a big buck for his work. He'll only charge you for the ink.
Okay, good. Okay, Rich, what's your question?
Yeah. Regarding the ink, does this Izzy guy sell ink in bottles as well?
Oh, yes.
The ink from him?
Yes.
The ink?
Yes.
Hypodermic needle is all I need, which I have plenty of from filling oranges with vodka, so. That's the real application. That's the permanent purpose. That's what all you need is a hypodermic, pulling this ink out and sucking and pushing it right in.
Yeah, Izzy will sell you 100 milliliter bottles of ink that have a tapered end on them. So all I do is unscrew the little cap at the top, turn it upside down, stick that little tapered end into the hole in the cartridge and squeeze it a little bit until it fills up. He'll also sell you a little 30 milliliter bottle of ink that's built like an accordion, and it has a long metal neck, and you push it like an accordion and fill your cartridges that way. Or he'll sell you the refurbished cartridges for single use only, and most of his prices run between $3 and $6 a cartridge.
That's pretty good.
Now
Okay.
I'm talking about the small cartridges, the ones that for printers that have 4 to 6 cartridges in them. Printers that only have 2 cartridges, Izzy's prices run from $6 to $12 a cartridge.
Okay, still pretty reasonable. Okay, another question, anybody? Okay, looks like we're out of questions, Jerry. So, thank you. Great
Thank you.
presentation. Okay, so we're gonna disconnect now, but thanks a lot, Jerry.
Oh, sorry, you're welcome.
Okay.
I enjoyed myself. Thank you. I'm here.
I thought I was calling I thought I was calling Joanne, but Jerry?
I'm on,
Oh, okay.
I'm on.
I thought that was great.
I did too.
Fred, I have a question, and you can say it's none of your business if you so desire, but where the heck are you sitting?
And that was great.
I got
Fred, get out of there.
I got that last time we did. I've been trying to promote this remote conferencing, whatever you want to call it, for a long, long time. But I got that comment the last time. But then we turned the camera around on everybody else, and they had the same looking room that I have. We had a flood in our basement. We had before Sandy, we had another Irene. We had Irene. So we had to redo our basement. Well, the stuff that was in the basement had to come up someplace, came up into my room, and it hasn't gone back down. So.
Oh, okay. This is the first time I've done multiples, and I'm very pleased with it.
I'm extremely pleased.
According to what I saw on the internet, so I'm asking a question, but what I saw on the internet said somebody has to have a premium.
Not anymore. No.
Yes, I just read it that the new version doesn't need to have. They did away with the charge. Now it's the group video is free for everybody.
Okay, Mike. And is there a limit to the number of people?
I think it's the same as it was before. Like four or six or something. There's no change.
I think
just is free for everybody.
I think it's up to 10. I think it's between 8 and 10 before you run into problems also with bandwidth. It's not that it's just that it's free, but I think after about 8 or 10, you're starting to run into problems with bandwidth.
Because when you go to the plus sign down at the bottom and then you say add people, it gives you a list, but I only saw like 10 names on there, so I don't know.
Well, would the 10 names just be from your contact list, or is that?
Yes, there were 10
right.
names from my contact list.
Right. They have been doing a leapfrog now, I think, with Google Hangouts, because I noticed that the person who's talking, that video goes center screen. Prior, it seemed to be more cumbersome, but that's kind of nice that whoever's talking grabs the center stage more or less.
Yeah.
And the audio was seamless. Skype's audio has always been seamless to me.
I think Skype is trying to keep up with TeamViewer and these other programs that do basically the same thing.
Well, Microsoft has bought Skype, so they're trying to push it into enterprise. We've tried Microsoft Link with minimal success because people who don't have Microsoft can't use Microsoft Link, but with Skype they can use anything. So
I have Skype on my iPhone, on my iPad, on my Android tablet, and then on my laptops.
I have that too.
And I haven't used it on my phone yet, but I've used it every place else. Okay, next question. Are you into APCUG, any of you?
The club is a member of APCUG, yes.
Okay, they used, I can't remember the name of it, but when they had their last virtual conference, they used a software. Do you remember the name of it?
I think wasn't it part of Microsoft? Didn't Microsoft give them something?
I don't remember.
I remember before Don Singleton passed away, they had, I can't think of the name of the software.
Yeah. But I'm pleased with the way Skype worked. I really am. And thank you, folks.
And thank you. It was very, very.
Thank you, Jerry.
Oh, Jerry, before you go, I don't know if it's going to work, but I tried to do a video grab, a video recording. Do you have any objection if we post it? I'll send you a copy, or I'll post it someplace.
No objection.
Mike,
where are you?
Mike, where are you?
Oh, I'm in Palm Coast, near St. Augustine.
Okay. Joe, where are you?
I'm in my living room,
In New,
watching
in-
television.
no, in New Jersey?
Oh, in New Jersey, yes,
Yeah.
Monmouth County.
Okay,
Mhm.
I did 4 years of high school in Hillsdale, New Jersey.
That's up north. That's further
Yeah.
north. Yeah.
Hillsdale, Montvale, Woodcliff Lake area.
Mhm.
And then I went in the Navy, and then, then I'm here.
Mhm.
See, I was on submarine, it scraped all my hair off. Same thing happened to you, right, Mike? Somebody scraped my hair off. All right, folks.
All right. Thanks a
I
lot.
enjoyed it.
Thanks a
Okay.
lot, Jerry.
That's
Thanks
great.
very much.
Okay,
Yes,
Joe.
sir.
Okay.
Good night.
Worked great.
Good night, Fred. Good night, Joe.
Good night, Mike.
Hi,
Thank-
everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mike. Thanks for
Yes.
pushing this. You got it. You
Okay.
got it. You got it pushed. And
Yes, I asked for this. I asked Sandy because I had never been in a meeting in so many years.
yeah.
So I sent him an email saying, "Is it possible? Since I got the idea, since this was done remotely, I
Right.
said to rent, and I think he contacted you, and then you contacted me,
Right.
and then you started the roll,
Right.
the ball rolling. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. Last time, and this was back in the late spring, we tried it with Skype also, but we did have problems. We didn't have. I don't think there was a single glitch tonight.
No, tonight everything went fine. No, everything went smooth. Nothing stopped.
And I think also because you at the last minute you said you downloaded the latest version.
Yes.
I did so too. Now I don't know if that slight improvement in version made a difference or not, but I just think
Yeah.
it went without a glitch.
Yeah. Do you remember me from New Jersey?
I'm trying to remember, Mike.
Remember you had an office in
Yes,
Marlboro,
yes,
and I came there one time,
yes.
and I told you I was doing Focus.
Focus?
Yes, an old
Oh,
generation language. That was me.
wait. Were you also when I had Alpha 4 or Alpha 5 that you were doing Focus, or was that
I
unrelated?
was there only twice at your place there. Only twice.
I personally don't remember anything about Focus, but I had been doing some stuff with Alpha 4, Alpha
Yeah.
5.
No, you what I said I write in Focus among other languages. You know, I do COBOL, a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit simpler, and I
Okay.
mentioned Focus, and you were the only one who knew what Focus was.
I may have remembered it then. I don't have a clue right now. My mind, I mean, there have been so many languages that have come and have gone. But
Yes, yes. Mhm.
wait a minute. There was a language. Wasn't there a language that's kind of a universal language, or is that something else I'm thinking of? There was a language that's supposed to encompass a lot of other languages. I don't know if it was Focus or not, but
I don't know.
no.
Yeah, but I've been here since 2005.
Well, you contacted me once before. I think we tried something.
Yeah, it could have been, yes.
You were in Florida, and I think we had one of our club members in India, and we were trying to do a remote setup at that time. That was probably about a year or 2 years ago.
In India?
We had a club member who was traveling in India, and
Oh,
he wanted to participate in the meeting also.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyhow,
But I know I participated one time with in a webinar before, but they had a few glitches.
well, we've always had glitches. This tonight has really been an exception. Unbelievable.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I just I'm very encouraged to try. I'm going to be doing my database workshop. That's what I ran at my office. I'm going to be doing that
Make sure
online.
you tell Sandy that everything went well.
Oh yeah. We have a video record of it. If all goes well, I'll be able to save this and post it. Um, but I'm going to start on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, fourth Tuesday of the month. And I was going to have what was called a shootout on these different remote programs, try the different
Uh-huh.
ones. But I'm kind of saying to myself, why bother? This Skype is, for me, is the way to go. if I could just be sure I could share my my desktop with any program I have and access the internet, you know, why bother with the others? Google Hangouts we've tried, and that was pretty good, but I didn't find the audio and I didn't find the video as good as it is with tonight's session. Joanne, how's your leg? Is Joanne gone? I guess she's gone.
Yeah, she left.
Okay.
Yeah.
right.
Okay, Fred.
Okay, Mike.
All right.
I really appreciate. We'll connect.
I really appreciated the work you put into this, and I'm very surprised that it works so well.
Okay. All right. Knock wood.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
All right. Take care and be well.
Good night. Good night.